Hello there everyone, this is me Ethan here and welcome back to another movie review. Spider-Man No Way Home has finally released and today I'll be giving you all my review of it. First there will be a non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review with a warning ahead. So with that all out of the way, let's whip and release right into it. It is really hard for me to review this without spoiling anything, but I'm going to try my best here. It picks up immediately after Far From Home whenever Mysterio reveals Spidey is Peter Parker. Over 2 years ago, I was shocked to see J.K. Simmons return, and I was even more shocked by that plot twist. It's used in this movie's plot to add stakes, and the stakes add so much emotion and tension and depth. MJ is so much better here, and the chemistry between her and Peter is at its best. I didn't understand why Peter liked MJ in Far From Home. Sure, it takes place a few years after Homecoming, so maybe it's developed by then, but here you can really feel the relationship and it is much more believable. Tom Holland and Zendaya are at their best here and I loved watching them. Speaking of great performances, let's talk about the returning villains. Willem Dafoe here is fantastic, and maybe better than his original performance. Alfred Molina's return was super fun to watch again as well. Jamie Foxx's Electro is so much better than in his original film, but he doesn't act the same way as we remember him. I'm not against that because Max was a very big villain trope of the nerdy fan, but all the returning villains acted the same as their original counterparts. It's just a weird plot hole for me. The Lizard and Sandman were really just bench warmers. They had moments, but overall they're not the main focus. Not cameos, but not main characters. I'm surprised by how not crowded everything felt with so many villains. All of them are pre-established, so this is the villains team up Avengers moment, if you will. Overall, I was very happy with these characters' returns, and seeing them fight alongside each other is something really cool to see. Moving on, the theater experience on December 16th was crazy. Many moments with the villains brought huge rounds of applause and laughs. Without spoilers, the audience had a huge range of emotions. My only real problem with this film is the first 40-ish minutes. It is pretty rushed and the setup flashes before your eyes. Everything feels like it happens too fast and it's kinda stressful, which I guess it was used to make us feel what Peter's going through. Doctor Strange was also stranger than normal. He didn't feel fully in character. The setup with him felt really goofy, more like a sitcom style scene, but maybe that's just me. But after that first act, the last two are absolute crowd pleasers and peak Spider-Man entertainment. I think that's pretty much my thoughts spoiler free, so now on to spoiler talk. If you don't want to be spoiled, click off now. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, okay, where do I even start? I guess at the beginning? Whenever Peter is struggling with being in the public eye, he learns he needs a lawyer, and it actually ends up being Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil from the Netflix TV show. After the Hawkeye episode just the day before, with that big Kingpin tease, I was so much more confident that he would appear. And despite not having seen the Netflix show myself, it was really cool to see him. On another note, the scientist myself quote got a big laugh and round of applause from the audience surprisingly. And I know I'm switching topics a lot, but whenever Peter, Ned, and MJ try to get into MIT, I kinda laughed. It is just hilarious to me that they think they can actually get into MIT that easily. And at that, they're associated with Peter Parker, who is now perceived as a semi-murderer. Just a weird B-plot to me. I have to talk about the villains one more time though. I liked how Peter doesn't want to fight the villains, rather he wants to cure them and give them a second chance. That is very much a Peter Parker thing to do. He could have gone the easy way out and sent them back immediately like Strange wanted him to, but he knows he shouldn't and that he should help these troubled people. Also, whenever Peter traps Strange in the mirror dimension, that was brilliant. Some great Peter Parker stuff there too. It ends up hurting him in the end, but man, that was a fantastic aspect that I loved. Now, on to what you want to hear. Andrew Garfield and Toby Maguire's return. I knew that they would be in it, but it felt like a dream that they're actually back. And they weren't just nostalgia bait, they were in like the 2 last acts of the film and they were supporting characters. It really wasn't nostalgia bait. They didn't try to recreate iconic or funny moments, the characters were just back. Andrew Garfield is bursting with charisma and he was, I'm gonna say it, amazing and the star of the show here. Some of his jokes are super funny. And of course seeing Maguire again was just a dream come true. He's fighting against the cool youth pastor. All the banter between the 3 Spider-Men just left a grin on my face. You gotta love seeing Tobey Maguire validate Andrew Garfield and tell him that he isn't lame. They both motivated and helped Tom Holland's Peter become Spider-Man. He has his defining Ben Parker moment. Speaking of which, wow, Aunt May's death I was not expecting. I was betting either May or Happy to die, but it still shocked me. Her death was absolutely brutal and it makes Goblin crazy intimidating. It was just a heartbreaking scene. And it doesn't try to include any cheesy jokes in it anywhere, it's just full of emotion for straight 5 minutes. This film truly just breaks Peter. Holland's entire trilogy is really just a setup to his true origin where he really becomes the man in Spider-Man. Whenever Peter was punching Norman, it packed a punch, man. You could feel his rage and anger, and he was just brutal. Anyone who says Holland's Peter is the weakest Peter Parker just got a big punch in the face from him. Finally, the ending was heartbreaking. Absolutely depressing. The only way to close the multiverse is for everyone to forget Peter Parker is Spidey. When Parker goes to the donut shop to tell MJ and Ned about all their past adventures and he chooses not to because he knows it would put them in harm's way, man, that hurts, and it was one of the best decisions John Watts could have made. Since the whole world no longer knows who Peter Parker is, that includes every other Avenger, making him no longer an Avenger. The ending was perfect and heartbreaking at the same time. Especially that final scene with the new suit that Peter made himself. It looks like a combination of all three actors' suits. It is near perfect and I cannot wait to see it in better lighting. This pretty much fixes every Iron Boy Jr. complaint that people had with Holland's Spidey. Now nobody knows who he is. He's not connected to any other super in the MCU and he no longer relies on technology. In my opinion, this is a perfect Spider-Man movie to me and it is my favorite. It has the most heart and energy out of the Holland trilogy. I never felt this much emotion in a superhero movie. This film teaches Peter how to become Spider-Man and it makes me appreciate the previous two installments just a little bit more. He learns that with his actions there can come consequences, and with great power there must also come great responsibility. It is safe to say that I absolutely loved Spider-Man No Way Home. It is my favorite Spider-Man and MCU film. It's certified Tom Holland as Peter Parker for me and I could not be happier.